Hi, I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Charlie.
And this is the Jug O Sip podcast.
You can find us on Google and all social media at Jug O Sip Podcast.
New episodes release every Monday and Friday.
All right, so we're very tired today. Very tired.
My body hurts.
Yeah. So you know, I've been working nonstop for like, I don't know, 3 weeks straight. Ever since we were in the news for, you know.
Ugh.
Anyway.
What's her face, bitch?
That unfortunate human being. Anyway, this is gonna be a special episode of Jug O Sip. We're doing a story time episode because we just actually caught wind that Disney World is doing a phased reopening. On July 11th, the Magic Kingdom and the Animal Kingdom are both opening.
Oh, fuck, sorry. I've been drinking Pepsi this whole time, and I felt that was rumbling, and I'm like, I'm going to burp on camera. Yeah. And I'm just going to, or on mic, technically.
Yeah, we're not on camera.
So, whatever.
On July 11th, the Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom of Disney World in Florida are reopening, and on July 15th, Hollywood and racist Epcot, as I call it, are reopening the same day.
Now, to be fair, Epcot is the most racist area. But we'll talk about that in a bit. But basically, back in November, prior to the incident known as COVID-19, my family and I went to Disney. Now, I mean, and when I mean my family, I mean my whole fucking family.
Yeah, and I was there too.
There were 15 of us in a house. My parents rented a house with a pool and a hot tub. It was lovely. Actually, I realized what an adult I have become because I personally have been to Disney 3 times in my life.
Well, wait. Before we get to that part, I want to start from the beginning.
Wait, what do you mean beginning?
Like the road trip to Disney World from...
Well, let me explain the back plan first. Like what I
okay.
So we rented this house. There were 15 of us. It was my dad, my stepmom, both my stepsisters, their kids, which there are like 3 altogether with that family, their husbands, my brother, his wife, me, Charles, my brother's kid. So overall, there was like 15 of us in this house, and it was a lovely house. But we had a nice family vacation there. But so let's start with the road trip. Charles, why don't you?
Start? So.
Do you want me to, tell them why we were driving and
that whole backstory? Explain, because we didn't fly direct from New York to Florida.
As we do here at Jug O Sip and at, the Grant and Corrick household, there's a backstory to the backstory to the backstory. Yeah. So, I lost both my grandparents this past year. My grandmother died August 6th, 2019. Mm-hmm. So, I was like trying to remember what year it was. Fuck, I feel like I'm in like Jumanji.
So does everybody.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I don't know what fucking year it is right now.
Yeah.
But before that, we had planned this trip prior to that. And we were planning to drive down there because she was in a nursing home in North Carolina. And we were like, we'll pass through North Carolina and go see Nan and then go to Disney. And I had fortunately been able to see Nan months before she died. But I wanted to see her one more time. But unfortunately, she passed before that trip. But we decided, my parents decided for some godforsaken reason that it would be less pricey. I don't know why. I don't know how the funds worked out, but they said it would be less pricey to drive. And so in one car, it was like my parents, and I think that was it in the one car. And then my brother, his wife Heidi, my nephew, and Charles and I were in another vehicle. Yeah. And I mean, it was not a bad trip. We had a really lovely time. I made some friends with some cats in a motel.
Yeah. So
you want me to tell that story real quick?
Wait. So let's take it step by step. I want this to be linear.
Fine.
Because this is
fine.
Yeah.
Fine, Charles. Tell the damn story the way you want to. God damn. You here, drink my coconut water, you fucking asshole.
So basically, we fly into West Virginia.
Yeah.
No, we don't. We land in a different state, but I
fly into Pittsburgh when I visit my family because there's no like large airport where my family lives.
Right.
So it's like a 2-hour drive from Pittsburgh. So we flew into Pittsburgh at like what got there like? Did we get there late?
It was real. Yeah.
I don't want to mix it up for the time I went to North Carolina the first time to see my grandmother.
We got there late
because I landed there at like 2 a.m. I was on the road early that day too.
Right, but we got there late. We were driven from Pittsburgh to West Virginia, where Lindsay is originally from.
Stayed at my family's house.
Slept overnight, woke up that morning. Then that morning we got up, Everybody was awake. Then we packed up the car, hit the road. Now, on the road, in this car, it's me, as Lindsay already said, it's me, Lindsay, her brother, his wife, and their child.
Right.
And we're just talking and playing the whole way through.
I was high on pot brownies the whole time. Like, literally,
Yeah.
I just made pot brownies. And I was also, like, smoking a bong at gas stations.
Yeah, can we talk about the rest stop? Because one of the rest stops we stopped at was this amazing place that sold the coolest shit.
Okay, Charles found out that when you go down south, the further south you get, that the gas stations in the middle of West Bumfuck nowhere have the coolest shit. They have, like, Swarovski crystal dragons and, like, stuff you would see at a county fair that's surprisingly cool.
It was like if you went to a bodega in Brooklyn and found out they sell samurai swords next to the Doritos.
It's like going to a combination of a gas station with a corner that reminds you of the Renaissance Fair.
Yeah, like it was
and it's
mad
so
cool.
Like you can buy, I mean, it's good quality shit.
Yeah.
Like I literally have on my, like for my birthday, I got a crystal dragon from my parents, and my dad remembered I liked dragons in high school and still do.
Right.
And it's cool as fuck. And he remembered high school Lindsay liked black and red as her favorite color. Cool as fuck. But he got this cool crystal dragon, and I was like, where'd you get these? Like, I got it at some gas station in North Carolina. I was like, why the fuck do they have the coolest shit in the South? If you go to North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, any of those gas stations, you can go in there and get, like, high as fuck. And if you have money, you can go in there and get a Slurpee and a sword.
For real.
It's fucking amazing.
I almost left there with a bag of Oreos and a dagger that was shaped like a hawk. Like, I'll be
completely honest with you. Like, we were at Disney World. We were going to be at Disney World, I should say.
And we got excited there at the rest stop.
Yeah,
like, we were already done.
And I told him, I was like, you don't want to buy a sword at a gas station when we're literally going to go to Epcot, Japan, and find possibly katanas and things that you love. Like, you love Japanese culture. So
yeah, and I
didn't want to deprive you of something you could get, like, from an area
I was so impressed by that rest stop. I was ready to go back home after we left the rest stop. I felt like
Disney World for
Like, I thought that was it. That's how I felt to me.
Like, that was great for him, you know.
Imagine if all of Disney World was just one rest stop.
That would be horrible. No one would pay to go there.
No. But that'd be funny as hell, though.
That's the biggest scam in the world. That's like something early Kyler would come up with.
Right. Well, anyway, so we get back on the road, and we're driving, and eventually we come to this hotel to rest for the night because, you know, driving a straight shot from West Virginia to Florida.
It was sort of a spur of the moment. It was more like a motel, because remember, motels are smaller.
Okay, yeah, it was a motel. That's right.
So basically, we were driving. We had planned to go straight through, but my brother and everybody decided, you know, we're all kind of fucking tired. I personally just wanted to take a nice hot bath, smoke a bowl, and go to bed. That was sort of where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
So we all agreed, let's get like a little motel. And it was a nice little place. Like, it didn't look like the best thing on the outside, but it wasn't bad. It was actually a very nice hotel on the inside.
Right.
And we rolled the fuck up there, and it was nighttime, and it wasn't late, but it was like 10. And we had a room above my parents, and everybody just immediately got their bags out, you know, adjourned to their rooms.
Yeah.
Except for me, because it's me. So my initial plan was go to the motel, smoke a bowl, go take a hot bath, and go to bed. There was a small detour.
Yes.
Would you like to tell them what the small detour was? So tell them what you stumbled upon when you came downstairs when I was outside of a motel smoking by the dumpsters.
Yeah,
not quite by the dumpsters. It was like a wall.
Yeah, I was unpacking, and I decided to go out and meet Lindsay to get some fresh air with her.
And just talk for a little bit.
Lo and behold, Lindsay is leaned. She is leaned up against the wall like Jay in front of the quick stop.
I looked like a goddamn, like, drug dealer. I was fucking hysterical. I was smoking out of one of those silicone bongs you can take camping with, like, the metal spring bowls.
Yeah.
The fold-up ones.
Yeah,
the collapsibles.
Right, she's smoking out of a bong that makes her look like the pothead character out of every horror movie.
Like Marty from Cabin in the Woods.
Posted up next to the motel wall, and she is talking to 2 stray cats.
3.
Oh, 3? I thought it was just 2.
Well, no, 3 came across, but it was mostly, I named De Niro and Garbage because they were the ones that stuck around the most. One came by to say hi briefly.
Yes, right. So there were 2 cats. There were 3 cats, but 2 of them stuck around. There was one...
Because the following morning, they all 3 said hi to me, but the other 2 stuck around.
Right. So there was one black and white cat, and for whatever reason, we named him De Niro.
He was white, and the only black parts he had was like a little mole, and it looked like he had a comb over. And it was just like he looked like he had a mole and a comb over, so he looked like Robert De Niro.
Is that what Robert De Niro... That's Al Pacino.
No, Robert De Niro also has a mole.
He does?
Yeah.
I've watched The Irishman like 8 times, and I don't think I actually know what Robert De Niro looks like yet.
Well, no, either way, it's a great name.
Yeah. Okay, so the cat's name, she named the one cat De Niro.
The other one was a tabby, in which I named Garbage.
Yes.
And if you were anybody is a fan of The Office out there, you'll know there was an episode of The Office where, spoilers if you haven't watched it, Dwight finds out Angela's cat is sick and he mercy kills it and puts it in the freezer.
Yeah.
And she finds out and and he tells her it was by natural causes. So he feels bad and he gets her this like cat that, if you've ever lived in the country, know is a mousing and barn cat.
Right.
They're kind of feral. He said it was a feral barn cat.
Right.
They're just meant to catch mice. They're not meant to be cuddled at all. And he decided to name it Garbage because he found it eating garbage. And since I found these cats by the dumpster, and this cat looked like that cat, I thought it was only reasonable to name it Garbage. And my brother got very upset about that.
He was very upset.
He felt like I was offending that cat. And I'm like, I'm honoring that cat, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, because the next day, the thing is, we went to sleep after she made friends with these cats.
No, actually, this is how the evening played out. I made friends with the cat. I smoked my weed. I bid the cats goodnight. They tried to follow me into our room, and I wish I had to tell them they had to go back to wherever their home was. And I took a hot bath, and we went to bed.
Yeah. And then the next day, the cats were out to greet Lindsay.
2 were sitting... one was sitting like outside the door, which I believe was De Niro.
Yeah, De Niro was outside the door.
Garbage was downstairs at the base of the stairs. I was being greeted by my people. They followed me to the car to help me with my bags.
Yeah.
My family came out and found me putting my, bags outside, speaking to the stray cats.
Right.
And this is what it's like for Charles to date me.
Yeah. It's just, I leave the house and Lindsay finds animals, befriends and names them, and I had to spend the rest of that day talking her out of taking them home with us.
If we were going home and not to Disney, I would have already had those cats in the car. They would be in this apartment.
Yeah, they would be here. It would be Artemis, Garbage, De Niro, and Bellatrix living in here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we get back on the road.
It was kind of early in the morning, so we got to Disney, or at least the house.
Yeah.
Like within a good hour or 2. It wasn't even that much. It was a pretty gentle drive after that.
But between leaving the motel and arriving to this home, which was essentially an Airbnb mansion-ish type place,
it wasn't
in
really
a gated
mansion.
community.
It was one of those really beautiful Florida homes in one of those gated communities.
Right.
So it wasn't a mansion, but it was like a 7-8 room house, because there were like 15 of us, and there were like 2 people per room usually, like couples and like their kids and stuff.
Well, look, I grew up in apartments in the hood my whole life. It was a mansion to me.
Maybe it's a mansion to certain people. I don't know. My perspective's very different. I grew up upper middle class. My family has a big house, so it's not. So between those 2 points, in the middle of the drive, they decide to play at the very top of the music, Fergalicious. Oh, okay. So you're gonna tell them mine and my brother's Fergalicious secret.
Now let me just let me just break this down for you. Lindsay and her brother have this thing about the artist Fergie. Matter of fact, I might be underplaying it. They have
Fergie and Nicki Minaj. There's a lot of artists that we do this.
It's a lot of artists. They have a lot of artists that they do this with.
And the thing is, we didn't know the other one did this. This always happens. We always have this one song that we both like, and since we see each other like once, twice a year, we end up getting in the car and doing this.
Yeah, and to be honest, it was hilarious. But in the moment, it was. Tell
them what it is.
What?
Tell them what happened.
Okay.
What you saw, what the thing was.
So picture me. I'm a black person sitting in the passenger seat
with like 4 white people.
There's 4 white people.
Five white people. My nephew too.
No, it's 4.
Oh, yeah. I miscounted.
Yeah. 4 white people in the rest of the car singing Fergalicious at the top of their lungs, knowing the words not missing a beat.
The rap, too.
The whole rap, line for line. They didn't miss a lyric. And I'm sitting there like, oh, my God, this is going to be hilarious to tell somebody one day.
And now you are.
And ironically, this is the first time I'm actually mentioning this.
I'll never forget the first time I heard Fergalicious. It was actually with my brother.
Yeah.
He was driving me to school, and he introduced me to it. And she got to that line where she's like, I'd be up in the gym, I'd be working on my fitness, he's my witness. And my brother and I in unison, even though he had heard it once before, in unison, he and I both just go, I'd be up in the gym working on my fitness. And we were like, what?
Yeah.
And we said it at the same time and just looked at each other and started laughing.
Listen, it's an interesting sounding song, but nobody said that it's not Mozart here. We're not talking about.
You don't listen to Fergie to be deep. You
No.
listen to Fergie to get drunk and dance with your girls.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, listen, you're like listening to. She literally sings about getting drunk. And London bridges, like, and having fun.
If you know Lindsay, this is actually a regular thing for her. For example, why don't you give them an example of this via Nicki Minaj's Anaconda? Just do the first lyric of that, just so people get a sample.
First lyric, the whole.
I mean, like the first verse, just so people can get a sample of what I was experiencing. Go ahead. This is
making me nervous.
This is Lindsay Elizabeth Cork doing Anaconda by Nicki Minaj.
My anaconda don't want none unless you got buns, hun. Boy toy named Troy used to live in Detroit. Big dope dealing money, he was getting some coins. Had some shootouts with the law, but he lived in a palace. Bought me Alexander McQueen, he was keeping me stylish.
Oh no.
I have no lung capacity for this.
Finish it off.
Oh, come on. No.
Because the part that's impressive is when she started doing it quickly. You can do that part too. Finish it.
Can I just do that part?
Okay, go ahead. Skip to that.
Oh my God. Guys, he's making me do this. I'm so sorry. By the way, what'd he say? He could tell I ain't missing no meals. Come through and fuck him with my automobiles. He could tell him eat him with the I always fuck this part up. Let him eat it with his grills. He keep telling me to chill. He said he don't like him bony. He wants something he can grab. He can pull up. Okay, I fuck it up all the time.
Give it one more shot, because you got the lyrics down right. Just do it once.
Let me look at the lyrics, because I get tongue twisted on it.
You get tongue twisted?
This is really fast. Like, Nicki is, if anything, a very impressive rapper.
Because you do it all the time in the house. That's why I'm...
But I'm singing with it.
Oh, that's what it is.
And it helps me remember it. It helps me keep the beat. I can't keep the beat on my own.
You can't keep the beat on your own?
Not really. Let me see if I can remember it, though. Because I literally, if I'm listening to it, everybody knows what I'm talking about. If you're not a professional rapper and you're just doing it in your room for fun, it's easier to do it with the song.
Yeah, when you're following the song.
Let me see.
But by itself, it's very hard.
It's really hard. I'm not doing this because I'm good at it. I'm doing it because I'm stupid. Let me see. Let me see if I can find it. Fuck.
Where is it? Okay.
By the way, what'd he say? He could tell I ain't missing no meals. Come through and fuck him in my automobile. Let him eat it with his girls. He keep telling me to chill. He keep telling me it's real. He love my sex appeal. He said he don't like him bounty. He wants something he can grab. So he pull up in the Jag and made weather with the jab like dum da da dum dum dum. Like,
yeah.
Ouch! That was really fucking hard, and it didn't even sound good.
Fergalicious was that. It was that on 10.
Wait, let me see if I can do Fergalicious.
Yeah, just give. I just want people to understand what
guys,
I was feeling.
I'm telling you, I literally am being clear. I am not a rapper. I'm not doing this because I think I'm good at it. I'm just really fucking dumb. I get really bored. I get really high, and I try to rap by myself. Right. I sing fucking Lizzo by myself. Like,
shout out to Lizzo.
I sing Good as Hell to myself in the shower. Let me see.
Where we at?
All the time I turn around, brothers gather around, always looking me up and down, looking at my I just want to say I ain't trying to round up drama, little mama. I don't want to take your man. And I know I'm coming off just a little bit of conceited, and I keep repeating how the boys want to eat. And I'm trying to tell, can't be treated like clientele because they say she delicious. Yeah, that is what it's like living with me.
Her whole family at the same time.
Yeah.
Every
me and my brother do that.
Word.
My brother sounds like me. We do the same.
Yeah. He sounds a little bit like the male equivalent of Lindsay, but it was the same. And I'm sitting there still.
Are you impressed with me, baby?
Yeah.
Good.
And I'm sitting in the car still black, talking about I can't drive. They are my ride back home. I
love this woman. This is it.
This is like every good decision I've made in my life up to this point has led to me being in a car on the way to Disney World listening to these people sing Fergalicious.
Tell me you didn't love it.
I did love it. Because with perspective, is like I could have been in Harlem, homeless and smoking crack or something, but this is, it's funny because it was like I worked up to this.
No.
This was the win.
I'm sorry we're so white. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I don't really have a problem with it. It's just, it was such a ridiculous experience.
It reminds me of the Time After Time experience that I had with my brother for like a whole fucking like semester of school.
Oh, yeah.
When he was my only ride to school.
Yeah.
My brother was dating this girl, Darcy, for a while. And he loved her deeply, and he was going to propose to her. And then he found out, like, right around the time he bought her the ring, that she had cheated on him.
Yeah.
And it was really sad. And his breakup was really tragic. But looking back, it was also a little bit funny. And Michael, forgive me for laughing about this, but looking back, it was a little hysterical. It was sad. Like I said, he was in a really bad place. But he was my ride to school. And he drove me to school.
Yeah.
And during the time that he broke up with Darcy, he got obsessed with this cover of Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper. It was by a guy group. It was a little bit more rock and a little bit faster paced. I forgot the fucking group. I'm surprised I forgot it since it was like a whole year of my life.
Yeah.
And I mean, he and I grew close around this time too. Like, he came in our room at night because he was living at home at the time, and he would talk to me about how heartbroken he was, and I'd stay up late with him, and we'd have really lovely discussion. One night he even fell asleep in my bed, and I just, let him stay in there because it was so sad.
Right.
And but he would drive me to school. And he, like, literally, I drove to school every day listening to my brother going, if you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, Darcy. And one day, I'll never forget it. I was really patient at first. This went on for months, though. And I was like, one day I looked at him and I go, if you're going to drive off a bridge, can you let me get out of the car first? I felt so bad, but it was sort of hilarious. Just like, I need my man, I hear the clock ticking, think of you. Caught,
He started doing that dry heave, almost throwing up, crying.
And I mean, I feel bad. I'm not trying to, like, reduce his feelings to a comical moment, but, like, when you look at it in a perspective as a comic, there is a lot there. There's
a lot of material.
And I say this having gone through breakups like that, so I understand that. But that's what my brother and I communicate a lot through music. Every one of our memories and things are attached to that.
Right. So back to the Disney trip.
We got a little sidetracked there.
After Fergalicious, we arrived at the Airbnb house. Sorry, I'm a little gassy. Oh boy.
Was it Airbnb?
I think it was.
Just something like it.
It was something like that. But basically, they were renting a house for the trip for a certain amount of days. We arrived to this place.
It was very nice.
It was very, very nice. It was two stories, right?
Yeah, 2 floors.
It was 2 floors.
Lots of space.
Lots of space. Big, nice kitchen.
Pool, hot tub.
Now I have to. The thing is, the Black perspective of things is always very important for me to talk about because it is a very unique and often hilarious perspective. So,
and I often forget about those differences in our relationship until we're around my family.
Right. So I go in there and the first thing I think as a Black person was, wow, I've only seen this kind of furniture on sitcoms for, like Full House and other white people. Like you, yeah. I was expecting that theme music to go off when we went up. We were just like everywhere you look, everywhere there's a heart. Like I thought
he felt like every time we opened the door, we were going to get introduced like a character. Whatever happened to predictability? Introducing Lindsay Elizabeth Cork. You know?
Like I thought every time I entered the room,
playing Aunt Lindsay.
Yeah, every time I entered the room, I thought I had to turn to the camera and pose. That's how this whole
every time
house
you got
was.
is that why every time you got a cup out, you sort of looked at me like you were posing in front of a camera?
Yeah, because
I had to hold on to.
Yeah, I felt like I just had to do it because I was like the Black friend that was visiting. No,
you're the Black boyfriend. You're basically like Steve.
I was like the Meshack Taylor combined with Steve Urkel of this vacation.
Yeah, because you're not as you're kind of sexy like Anthony Bouvier and cool, but you're also like kind of a nerd, dude. Right. Actually, Anthony Bouvier was kind of a spaz too.
Yeah, he was a bit of a spaz,
like a hyena and shit. But anyway, go ahead.
So, but this house is very nice. It was like an open floor plan, and there was enough room for everybody.
We had the nice downstairs bedroom next to the door.
Yeah,
near the kitchen, so that was nice.
Yeah, that was really nice.
I made margaritas the first night and floated around the hot tub listening to Cardi B. I mean, we had a very nice vacation.
No, it was nice. I attempted to do a bit of work. For people who don't know, I'm actually a animator, and I was trying to get
video editor
and all kinds of I do all the animation for the podcast.
3D modeling, whatever.
Yeah, and I was trying to get into character animation. I had this course I was doing at the time, but I couldn't concentrate on it because I just couldn't. It was just too much shit to absorb.
We were on vacation, and there was too much happening.
Yeah, I was on vacation. I had a rough year. I wasn't really trying to.
My family takes family photos at Thanksgiving time, so they wanted to do that.
Right, which we'll get to the family photo that was taken as well. For the black people listening, no, it was not one of those all the white people dressed the same and looking slightly to the left type photos.
It was white people looking the same and posing differently.
Yeah, we all posed differently, and
Charles also got to wear a matching shirt.
Right, and the shirt they got me, actually, we'll just tell the story now.
Let's just tell it.
So basically, why don't you tell it? Go ahead.
So, my family, being a very white family, likes to do themed family photos. I'm not about it, but I'm the kind of person that I like my family, and fuck it. If they want to do this dorky white people shit, whatever. I only have to see them a couple times a year, and I got a free t-shirt. So, the theme this year was flamingos. The reason being is I forgot to count him in the beginning, but he's not really my stepbrother. It's a young man that my stepmom took care of, named Jesse. Jesse has Down syndrome.
Yep.
And he's nonverbal.
Yep.
He's very cool though. Like if you eventually,
he's hilarious.
You figure out how he communicates, and
he just has his own way of doing it.
Yeah, and one way he communicates is he has a flamingo, a Thai beanie baby named Mo. And he uses Mo to emote his anger or whatever feelings he has.
Right.
He also, when he's feeling powerful, he holds his muscles up and poses like Gaston because he likes Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
So this year, because Jesse loves flamingos, they all unanimously decided to do a flamingo-themed photo shoot.
Right.
I think Heidi was the only one that wasn't really about it. She was
not about it.
She's not about any of it, but that's just because, like, I think if it weren't my immediate family, I wouldn't be either. I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me with this shit? But because I love them, I don't mind.
They bought her a flamingo dress too. She ended up losing it in getting ready.
She might have just forgotten it. I mean, she had a kid to take care of. And
yeah, she got a kid. She got there was a lot of stuff to manage.
But my thing was just, I actually really liked the picture of her dress. I wish she had brought it because I would have just like worn that.
Yeah, I thought
she
it was
didn't
nice.
like it. I had a white t-shirt with flamingos on it.
Right.
I was quite bloated that day, so that was unfortunate. I never liked the way I look in family photos. I look so hot when I model, and then like I take a family photo and I just look like a pudgy white person. I hate it. I get so mad. I'm like, ew, I'm gross. Why am I always gross and fat in my family photos? Just all bloated. Like I always end up being on my period when we have family photos, so I'm just retaining water and pissed off. I always look so grumpy, and I'm usually really high.
Wow. Okay. Well, so we were taking these family photos, and because of the flamingo Mo, the theme for all the clothes were flamingos, and
right,
it wasn't matching. Like each one of us had
Everybody
a garment.
had a different thing.
Yeah, we all had a different thing that had a flamingo on it.
Yeah, and I mean, props to my family. They put a lot of work. My parents and everybody who put it in work to that. I think my stepsisters did too.
Now, Lindsay was actually worried that the garment that they got me, which was a polo shirt with flamingos on it.
It was really pretty. It was pretty, but it wasn't like my style anyway. It was red. It had a green color. It had like Christmas colors and had white flamingos on it. It looked like a dad golf shirt.
Yeah, she thought I was gonna be worried.
I thought you were going to be upset.
I mean, yeah, like I was gonna be upset.
You weren't gonna
yeah.
like it.
Right.
Because it just didn't seem like something you would normally wear. It turns out Charlie likes dad shirts.
I was really into this shirt. I was feeling this shirt. I still have the shirt. I've worn it many times since that day.
I still have my flamingo t-shirt. I wear it sometimes.
I feel like, and here's the reason why. Because I felt like this was the same shirt that you would wear if you were like a New York nightclub douchebag in the early 2010s.
See, it looks like a dad golf shirt to me.
That's how nightclub douchebags in New York dress. They dressed up like they were about to be dads.
That's hysterical.
A lot of them did become dads.
Yeah, I mean, you look nice in it. The colors are great on you.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
No, it looked good. Like with my skin tone, the red really popped.
That was one of those reds though that looked good on almost any complexion. Almost. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so we had family photos. Honestly, there's a lot of information I forget. Like I forgot what day we did that.
Oh, I don't really remember the days, but I mean the day that happened isn't as important as the fact that it happened at all. But that was cool. It was a nice little thing.
It was a nice trip because like most of us were adults, so we weren't like rushing off to the parks. We took our time going, everybody kind of just did their own thing. Now, the new thing about Disney World I did not like, as I mentioned before, I went 3 times in my life. I went one time when I was, this is my 4th time. I went one time when I was 3, one time when I was 9, one time when I was 16, in which I got the flu on that trip, and that sucked. I got the flu like the first night there, and I just was miserable the whole time. And I went this time when I was 31.
As for me, this was the very first time that I ever went to Disney World.
So if you haven't been to Disney in a while, and you're one of these people that went when you were a kid or a teenager and want to go back, or never been, things have changed. There's no longer characters just freely walking around. And that, I know it helps control the environment, but it is very sad. because I miss being able just to walk up to characters that are just standing there and smiling, waving. I don't know, just the whole vibe of the world in general. There's a new rigidity that we have now that isn't as free-spirited as what it used to be.
Right.
And then the Fast Pass used to be that if you stayed at the Disney parks, you could use your hotel pass as a Fast Pass.
Yeah.
Now, I think they also had a thing where at some point you could get pay for a Fast Pass or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I think would be great. I mean, personally, I would rather pay for a Fast Pass and get unlimited uses.
Yeah.
Now they have this thing where you have to get a wristband or use your card, your ticket to the park.
Right.
You have to go on your phone on a phone app, schedule what time you want to go on a ride. You only get a certain amount of Fast Pass uses a day.
Yeah.
And that's very unfortunate because the lines weren't even all that horrible to begin with. Some of them I was willing to wait a couple of hours for because I wanted to ride them. But whatever reason they
that
closed down or
that
whatever.
Fast Pass thing was its own. Well, I'll tell you what, because we're about to get into the whole park situation. Let's just let's talk about the first day. So the first park we did at Disney World.
We did the Hollywood Studios the first day.
And for those who are listening who have never been, Disney World and Disneyland are two different parks. Disney World is in Florida. Disneyland is in California.
And they have different things. For example, in Hollywood Studios, we have at Florida's Disney World the Hollywood Tower of Terror, which is one of my favorite rides, and I ride. It's religious when I go to the Hollywood Studios. Because it used to be formerly known as MGM Studios. MGM used to be a part of it.
Yeah.
They had a replica of the Chinese Theater in LA. Yeah. And they had the Great Movie Ride in it, which they have removed since they've separated from MGM, and it's devastating to me. Yeah. And but anyway. At that park, we had...
really quick. In Disney World, it's actually a collection of 4 parks. There are Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood, and Epcot. And Magic Kingdom is the one with the big-ass castle that you see anytime you watch a Disney movie. They have the Cinderella Castle.
And which now, fun fact, you can stay there in a hotel. It's a very expensive thing, but you can stay in Cinderella's castle now, which I think is lovely. And I think if I go to Disney in future, I'd like to do it up and probably stay there.
But the first day we actually went into the park, we ended up going into Hollywood Studios. Now, when we went into Hollywood Studios, every level of financial cynicism I had turned on at the same time. I took one look at this kiosk of Lilo and Stitch plushies, and they were just these little teddy bear things. These things, what were they, $15, $30?
Something like that.
A piece? I took one look at that and my wallet almost exploded in my pocket. I was like, absolutely not.
And we weren't thirsty for money. We were making good money. I mean, we still are, but then, we were definitely not suffering.
Yeah, it's not like we would have felt it, but it was such a was a bad thing to spend money on.
I was vibrating with joy because that's one of my favorite parks because one, as I mentioned, the Tower of Terror is there. The Rock and Roller Coaster by Aerosmith is there. And the Voyage of Little Mermaid show is there. And I'll explain to you why that is such a sentimental show to me later. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So we in this park and we going through and I'm just like, ain't none of these motherfuckers gonna get into my money. You ain't doing that. You can't have it. You can't have my money, Disney.
Yeah, that changed a little bit throughout the park. You can't have
it. I'm gonna get to that.
That's where he got his inner child switch.
Wait a second. Hard. Wait a minute. We gonna get to that. All right. We gonna get to that. All right. So we in the Disney park and we walking around. And I'm not a Disney person. I was not really a fan of Disney as a kid. I was a very grumpy child.
You were born an angry old man.
I was the kind of kid where at 3 years old, I would be screaming Lion King in the movie theater in my stroller. But the second Mufasa died, I just checked out because the other 2 acts were terrible.
To me, I checked out after Timon and Pumbaa.
I didn't even, man, I damn near forgot those characters were in the movie until I watched it again at 10. I wasn't into it. Disney just didn't appeal to my sensibilities. I was the kind of kid where if you made baby noises at me, I would get legitimately upset. I would be a baby that had his intelligence insulted, and I would stare at you angrily until you apologized to me.
Charles is a very surly old man. Carry on.
Yeah, I always was. So when I got to Disney, it just kicked all that stuff back in. So we just walking around and we looking at rides and different attractions, and I'm just unimpressed. But Lindsay, on the other hand, how are you feeling?
I was really happy because, though, as I realized, Disney has changed for me as a 31-year-old woman versus a child because I was there with kids this time. Yeah. And I gotta say, I never thought I would say it. I thought I would not like Disney from that perspective, but going with kids, I can't wait to have my own kid and go back. I had a really good time.
Disney
with one kid, like with my nephew, it was great. So if I had like a baby, I would have a great time.
I'm gonna say this: if you're an adult and you go to Disney World, if you don't have a child to help you enjoy it, the whole thing is bullshit. It's just
not
trash.
Everyone feels like that. I'm sure everybody has their own perspective. That some people don't like kids, but for me, it was very different. This time, I rode the rides I wanted to ride. I went around and saw the attractions I wanted to see, and I felt ready. You know, I didn't want to stay till closing most nights. I was keen on leaving by 7 p.m., going to the gas station outside of the park, getting some cherry Coke and munchies, going back to the house, making margaritas, having snacks, and smoking a bowl and floating in the hot tub. Like,
yeah.
After from noon to 7, I was very satisfied with my day.
For me, if it wasn't for your nephew, basically the whole thing would have just been noise and colors that I didn't want to be and brands that I didn't like, characters I didn't care for.
I mean, I had fun the last day without Caleb, but it wasn't the same kind of fun.
Yeah,
there was a piece of it that just felt empty because I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed carrying him into Pirates of the Caribbean and, riding like at that, that Great Thunder Mountain with him, because that was the first roller coaster I ever rode, and I was about his age when I rode it.
Right.
And there's actually a whole experience I had with little Charlie at the Voyage of Little Mermaid too.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that next. We went to the Voyage of Little Mermaid afterwards, like not afterwards, but like sometime
that afternoon, and we did a few. Like, I mostly hung out with my brother, his wife, and his kid, but we met up with the rest of the family.
Yeah.
To do certain events, and one of them was the show, The Voyage of Little Mermaid. And for those who haven't been to Disney, that's just a reenactment of the Little Mermaid with a live action actress and a puppet of Ursula. It was really a lot of fun. And I saw it the first time when I was 3. And Little Mermaid was my favorite movie as a kid. And I remember I looked at my mom when I was 3 and I said, "Mommy, it's Ariel." And she started crying because it was so sweet. And when she told me that, I didn't understand why she cried until my stepniece, Charlie, also named Charlie, was like, "Look."
She's a little white girl. I'm a large black man.
She's
same name.
She's little Charlie, but she was like all excited, like, look at that, and I just started fucking crying, and I was trying to not do it very obviously.
No, it was obvious. I looked over and she was tearing up.
Oh God, it was so hard. It was like I'm crying thinking about it. It was like mom senses were just on that whole trip for me. Like, it was just maternal explosion for me.
Yeah, that was a great moment. And while this is happening to my right, to Lindsay's left is me sitting there grumpy and bored, staring at the laser show.
You're like, I'm getting wet from the splashing of these of this fake water and shit.
She's like, that goddamn Ariel sprayed me one more time. If she sprayed me one more time, I'm going up there and I'm slapping her in the mouth. Like, that's how upset I was getting.
And I'm over here like sobbing over part of your world like a fucking idiot. Like, that's not even my kid.
Yeah.
It's not even my kid. And she's like, look, she's talking to me more than her mom during this show.
Right.
And I'm like, duh.
Yeah. So that ends and we leave the area and
I'm still crying.
And Lindsay and Heidi go off with Caleb to take some pictures with a couple of characters like
Fancy Nancy.
Yeah, like Fancy Nancy,
like the stuff that we didn't really have as kids, but
who's the girl who's the vampire?
Oh, Vampirina.
Vampirina, Fancy Nancy.
He really likes Vampirina. He likes both of them, but like
right. So
the puppy dog pals, all that shit. That's what he watches.
Right. So they doing that, and I'm just looking around, and like all of a sudden I'm standing there. And in the middle of the crowd just suddenly parts. And I hear Star Wars Empire music. And I'm like, what in the hell is happening? I see Darth Vader. I see Rey, old tiny looking ass. I see, she is tiny.
But you called her old tiny looking ass. She's a young woman, Charles. She's younger than us.
Rey, she tiny. I see Darth Maul. I see a bunch of stormtroopers, Chewbacca. It's a whole parade of Star Wars here. I'm like, yo, what is going on here?
You didn't know about Galaxy's Edge being in that park.
I had no idea about this. So this shit happens. I'm like, wow, that was actually pretty dope.
And
I'm a Star Wars fan. That was cool.
And for what people don't know, like if you haven't been to Disney, they have a new park called Galaxy's Edge at Disney. It's a Star Wars park.
Yeah.
Now, what used to be there was the MGM movie tour and, TV show tour where you could go and look at like houses like from George of the Jungle. And one of those houses happened to be the house where the Golden Girls, one of the exterior houses for the Golden Girls, the other one's in LA. So we can still go see that one because I saw the Florida one and it's just a house.
Yep.
Yeah. But that was sad for me because I'm a huge Golden Girls fan. But you know, later Charles will tell you what is there now in that exact spot. Right.
Yeah. Well, I'll get to that next. So basically, the Star Wars things happen, and I'm sitting there standing next to Michael, keeping him company while we're waiting for Lindsay, Heidi, and Caleb to get back. I look over at Michael, and I'm like, that was cool. What did you think of that? He was like, yeah, that was all right, but he's on his phone and like he's really focused on his phone.
Michael can't concentrate and talk to people. If he's on his phone, you might as well be talking to a wall. That's just
I mean, he was paying attention, but like, like he just wasn't impressed because he was into something more impressive. And I was like, what you looking at on your phone? He was just like, I heard that they make real lightsabers here. And I'm like,
oh.
I'm like, huh?
And droids.
What? Yeah, he was like, they make real lightsabers and droids at Disney World.
And that's something, if you told 9-year-old Lindsay that, I would have flipped a fucking table. I mean, I still, like, I wanted to get one done. They were expensive, so I just let Charlie do it.
Wait. Don't, you're getting too far ahead. You didn't get too far ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Michael says this, and I'm like, what do you mean they sell real lightsabers? Because behind us at the time, there was a store. It was like a Star Wars themed store where they were selling lightsabers that you can make, and he was saying that you could get a custom made lightsaber at Disney World. I'm like, oh yeah, there's the one right over there.
But those were the cheap ones.
I didn't know that. Like we walked in there, and I was like, yeah, it's these, right? And he was like, nah, these are the cheap ones.
Like those ones you get for kids.
Yeah, the ones that I'm talking about, they're like high-end, expensive weaponry.
Like a light thing. Like it has an actual light. Like
it has a filament.
Light.
Yeah, it has like a filament tube thing that acts as the saber itself.
You can even slide in crystals to change the color.
Wait, you getting too far ahead. Wait a minute, one at a time. Hold on. So basically, he says this, right? And I'm like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. You want to find that? And he says, yeah, we need to find that. So that became his whole mission the whole day. It was just like, it was like, find these lightsabers, find this lightsaber. And me, I'm just like,
he gets obsessed with shit. Like he'll focus on it for a long time.
Yeah, it was just, you gotta lean closer to the mic.
I was just stretching my back.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, because I want them to hear you. I didn't want.
Oh no, I mean my voice carries. You can probably hear it really well anyway.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was like, find these lightsabers. I'm like, all right, well, that sounds cool. Whatever. It'd be nice to see at least where they do it. That'd be cool. The day continues and night falls. As night falls, we are doing our best to locate the place where the lightsabers are.
We had already been into Galaxy's Edge because that was also the same day Caleb did the thing. So
we were. Oh, I'm skipping over.
Padawan.
I'm skipping over my favorite part of this day. They have this fucking thing
called Padawan training.
It is the dopest thing. Like before that, I didn't give a fuck about Disney. I did not care about Disney World. I wasn't even in it. I might as well not have been there. But when Padawan training happened, let me tell you about Padawan training. Let me tell you about this. So, first of all, let's credit Heidi for working as hard as she did to get him in this.
Yeah, because they had an opening randomly.
Yeah, they had a random opening. This was not easy. She was on her mom game OD that day. Like, she was not messing around. OD. Yeah.
You mean OG?
No, OD. It's an older...
Overdose?
Yeah. It's an old... Yeah.
Mom overdose?
No, no, that's not the like, she didn't overdose on being a mom. It's a context thing. She was on... Anyway, she was on her mom game. For real. Like, so
she went and gave her name in case they had an opening and someone canceled.
Right, so someone canceled and she was watching this thing like a hawk all day. She got Caleb into the Padawan training.
And like one of the last ones they did, I think, during the day.
Here's how it works. So basically, you a little kid and you go...
I think you could be up to 12, I think.
Yeah, you could be up to like 12 years old. You can go, which is a shame because I'm sure there were plenty of adults who wanted to do the same thing.
Me.
Yeah.
But technically Padawan are children, so.
Right. So you go in and You go into the place, you're a little kid, and they give you a Jedi robe and they give you a lightsaber. And then, like the Star Wars parade, you are walking in a parade of children holding a flag that says Padawan team coming through.
Oh, sorry. And they do their little Padawan chant, which I don't remember how it went.
Yeah, they did I don't remember the Padawan chant either. It was very cute. Actually, we have it on video somewhere.
Like it's like, here they come the Padawan, here we come, or some shit.
Yeah, it was like, here come the Padawans, here we come, or something like that.
It was super cute, and they were carrying a little banner like they were having a little
Caleb
parade.
was in the front carrying half of the banner.
Oh, he wasn't he? Yeah.
Dressed as a tiny Obi-Wan Kenobi. Actually, he kind of looked like if Post Malone was a Star Wars character as a kid.
My nephew looks like Post Malone.
He does look like Post Malone. He looks like Post Malone with no tattoos and as a child.
You only say that because he likes Post Malone and raps Post Malone.
That's why I call him Pre-Malone. That's exactly why.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's marching through the whole park, or at least that part of the park. And
he is ecstatic.
Super ecstatic. He is smiling, and I'm like,
he's a very happy kid already. Like,
yeah.
He's fun.
I'm looking at him, I'm like, yo, this is actually really cool. So he goes up there, right? Mm-hmm. And a couple of a couple of actors come out, and they're supposed to be the Jedi, and they're all being led by this Jedi master who's being played by this tall black lady.
Actually, it was all women doing the training.
Yeah, it was all women.
And because we all know, as Star Wars fans, that the women in Star Wars are the most baddest and the best fucking Jedi as far as I'm concerned. Even the non-Skywalkers.
How many non-Skywalker women were there? Oh, quite a few, actually.
Yeah, the only Skywalker woman there really was besides Padme's. Well, that's not Skywalker. You know what I mean? Like
no, but I feel you. I see what you're saying.
Well, actually, yeah, it was Skywalker actually. So yeah, Padme was cool. Leia was cool.
Yeah. Like
the women are always badder, but like even Laura Dern's character in one of the newer ones.
Right. So the Jedis come out, the actors come out, and they're just like, so we're gonna do some training, and they train them to do like a up down sweep and everything.
Caleb was grabbing his blade. He was not. He was enthusiastic where he lacked his skill.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
I was proud of him anyway. He tried.
Yeah, he was touching the saber and everything, and they were just like, "You're gonna hurt your hands, buddy."
They were roasting him.
Yeah, they were roasting him. I was like, "Yo, you don't have to point it out. Like, come on, man. Like,
he's not even 5 yet. Leave him alone."
Like come on. Like, he probably got stage fright. He don't know what's going on. We put him in a robe and gave him a sword
blade
that lights up and put him on a stage with a bunch of strangers. How well did you
attacked by a bunch of grown ass men and shit?
Well, they was like, how well did you think that will go? So they do that training part, and they're just like, in Act 2, they were like, okay, kids, because they were like in front of a cave setup. They were like, okay, kids, the cave is going to show us your fears. We're going to do some training right now to face your fears. The fucking doors open up. Out come Darth Vader and Kylo Ren. In full costume, and I was like, oh my god, they're gonna murder these children. They're gonna kill these kids.
At first they came out, and I'm pretty sure Charles and I just audibly, because at this point I had stopped filming.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Charles and I kept stopping and starting so I could have shorter videos. But at some point, Charles and I just went, we were just like so excited to see.
I got scared. I was legitimately.
I was geeking out. I was like, it's Darth Vader!
Because I saw Darth Vader. I got flashbacks of when he murdered all them younglings in episode 3. I'm like, they're going to murder my nephew. They're going to murder my Get him away from here. Get him away.
The best part is they separated the kids into groups, and my nephew got to fight Darth Vader, not Kylo Ren, which that's a more challenging. If my nephew beats Darth Vader, he's a real badass. If you beat Kylo Ren, you just have to hurt his feelings.
Yeah. All you got to do is say the wrong thing, and he'll tantrum and trip over himself.
He and his little man square titties and his out of shape in shape pants.
Right, exactly. What he gonna do? Flex you to death?
What's the matter, Kylo? You gonna kill me with your titties?
Yeah, exactly.
No offense to Adam Driver. I do like Adam Driver a lot.
But them pants that they put him in, though?
I bet his dick hurt after that.
It looked like it did.
They look like those 1940s pants that, like, Robert Redford would wear.
They look like MC Hammer's pants, but, like, a misprint. Like, it was too much fabric on them.
Other than 80-year-old men, whose pants end at the underneath their titty?
Right underneath the tit, like his pants is touching his nipples.
Yeah, it might as well, like, it looked like a jumper or a romper.
Yeah. Anyway, so so Caleb got to fight Darth Vader. He did a great job, And all
he actually held his lightsaber, right?
Yeah, he held his own, and then all the kids had. So Darth Vader kidnaps the black lady, which I thought was odd.
He force choked her
like
too.
he force choked.
That felt a little racial. But
yeah, he force choked the only black woman into the cave, and then you didn't see her for the rest of it until the end. And I was like, all right, well that made me feel some kind of way.
But she also got to be the leader, so we didn't know how to feel.
Yeah, she was the leader. It was like, so so you let Darth Vader snatch the lead black woman into a dark room? All right, whatever. So Kylo was there, and he's just like, children, join the dark side of the Force or whatever. And the other kids, the Jedi actor, she's just like, no, resist him. Remember, it's just an illusion. And he's just like, fuck all that. I'm not no illusion. I'm about to take your kid. He didn't speak like that.
I'm surprised my nephew just didn't jump in line and be like, I'll go.
I gotta admit, those kids dealt with that way better than the adults did. Like we were
screaming.
We were so fucking scared. It's like, don't you take him! Don't you take him!
And the kids are basically like, fuck you! Eat a dick, motherfucker!
Yeah,
like they were holding up little middle fingers. They
so all
swinging their blades.
All the
shit.
kids at the same time used the Force on Kylo Ren, and Caleb was right in the front
and fucked his ass up.
They pushed him into the cave, and then they pulled the black woman out
with their little Force powers.
Yeah,
and by this point, I am crying.
Yeah,
and I'm like in the audience holding my camera, going, "You're doing amazing, sweetie."
I was like, "Yo, this is actually like if Disney didn't have that here, they would not have won me."
I cried. I was crying again. I cried so many times that day.
That was so cool. Oh my God. And I wasn't even in it. I just got to watch it.
I wanted to be in it. I was so mad. I wanted to be in it because it was so fun.
It was like watching my nephew, or what would be a nephew-in-law or future nephew-in-law?
No, I mean
watching it was like watching my nephew.
If we married, it would be legally your nephew.
Right. It would be like watching my nephew in a Star Wars movie. And I was like, yo, this was actually really, really cool.
And he did a kick-ass job.
He did a good job. So that ends, and I'm like, all right, Disney's starting to grow on me. So we continue to explore.
And you got your light.
And we continue to explore, and then nightfall happens. And during the night, that's when we finally find Galaxy's Edge. Now, Galaxy's Edge is the place where you can buy a droid or a very expensive but very realistic custom lightsaber, and you can also buy other lightsabers modeled after ones in the movie.
It's a whole experience. You have to make a reservation. And again, this was another fluke luck thing. The reservation that we wanted to get opened up because someone had canceled.
Right.
And when you go, you could pick what style, sabers and stuff you want. And they give you a special pin to decide whatever style you go with. And it's a very custom experience, and you could bring one guest. So my brother brought his wife and child, and Charles brought me.
Yeah, so we all got to go in there. And when you go in there, it's this whole performance where this guy this actor who played a dude who manufactures lightsabers, and he talked about...
He's one of the gatherers.
Yeah, he's one of the gatherers. And he started off by talking about how there were different crystals. In fact, we have footage of that. We might just put up a video of it so that people can see what it looks like on the inside. Maybe. But basically, he was explaining that there were the different crystals that give the lightsaber their power and their color.
And their energy.
It
was very spiritual. I was actually just in it for the spiritual conversation.
Yeah. And
I had a great time.
And I had to hold it down. I kept it real. So I got the Mace Windu, the purple,
Well, tell them what, you got like the
I got the Nature's Force, I think.
It was like something like that.
Yeah, it was like Nature Force lightsaber parts. It was really
cool. It had like, what kind of tooth was it?
It was a Rancor tooth on the end of the lightsaber.
And it was
really
very kind of earthy looking, and he went purple, which it's my favorite color.
Yeah.
So I told him you should go purple, but
But I had to represent, because my man Sam Jackson out there holding it down, making sure that there's black Jedis in this universe.
They got other options,
and not every single one of us look like we're selling Colt 45. Shout out to Billy D. Williams and Childish Gambino. Anyway, so I get my lightsaber. It's purple, and I put it together pretty quickly. Like, they walk you through it.
You're the first person to finish yours.
Yeah, and it's kind of aggravating because when they walk you through it, it suddenly goes from being this epic movie-like immersion thing to a bunch of people talking over each other in a room.
It was very loud.
Yeah, I didn't like that part, but
it was cool as fuck. Otherwise,
it was mad cool. So basically, we get our lightsabers. I got one. We got the crystals. I got one. Michael got one. We're geeking out. We walking through Disney World. Mind you, I started out the day saying they are not going to get my money. I left first day with
spent more money than I did
with
at Disney.
a $200 lightsaber.
All I bought for myself that whole trip was Minnie Mouse ears.
Yeah.
And drank a little bit. That was like Charles.
Well, we spent a lot of money on food.
We did though, but like what I'm saying is like you spent the most money on souvenir stuff, and I thought it would be the total opposite.
Yeah, initially I wasn't even going to do it. You were the one who actually talked me into it.
Well, you didn't want to spend the money, but
No,
we were doing okay.
I didn't want to spend it on myself.
We were doing okay on money.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think that because you didn't really have enough experiences growing up that were child friendly and you never really had fun.
Yeah.
And I've had so many experiences. I was very financially fortunate growing up. My family may have been abusive, but I got a lot of experiences like this. You didn't. So I'd rather you spend the money on you this time and, get to have your Disney experience. And especially considering you were compromising and going when you didn't even really want to initially.
And I appreciated that. And I still have that lightsaber. I keep it wrapped up inside of its, it comes with a little baggie you can get so you can carry it on your back. Yeah, I got to get new batteries. I think the batteries ran out. It doesn't light up anymore. But
But anyway, so.
Yeah, so that's basically how that day ended. We got lightsabers.
You got to tell them about where the Golden Girls' house was.
Yes. Galaxy's Edge is sitting on top of the original spot where they would shoot the Golden Girls.
Specifically the building where you built the lightsaber. You asked people where the Golden Girls' house was, and they said roughly around where the lightsaber thing was.
And we found out later that Galaxy's Edge was basically on top of where that studio was.
And it was so eerie for me because that was one of my favorite parts of Disney.
It was eerie. There was like this energy to that place. If you were a Golden Girls fan, you could sense it. There was like an energy. You sensed it too? Yeah, there was an energy to that place where it was like you can feel.
Because 3 out of the 4 are dead, so I feel like a piece of their energy is still there.
Yeah.
Like even if they didn't even shoot there, because that's an exterior thing.
Yeah.
There's something about. You can feel it.
Yeah, it was really weird. It was eerie.
Because they shot in California, but like there's still something about that location. It just has Golden Girls energy all over it.
Right. It was an eerie spot, but that was cool, and that's basically how that day ended.
Now we did the second day. We did
Epcot.
So the way that Hollywood Studios was good, Epcot Day was bad. And before you ask, how in the fuck do 2 generally very happy people have a bad day at Disney World? We're about to fucking tell you.
Yeah.
Now, I had a generally good day, but my day went south by proxy of what happened with Charles. So first, to break it down for non-Disney visitors, Epcot is not only where the Carousel of Progress is.
Oh, no. The Carousel of Progress is not at Epcot.
Oh, it's not? It's Magic Kingdom?
The Carousel of Progress is at the Magic Kingdom. It's inside of...
oh, that's right. Tomorrowland. I feel like Tomorrowland should be in Epcot and my brain switches around.
Yeah, but that's the story of the next day.
Epcot has like Space Mountain... wait, is Space Mountain in Epcot too?
Space Mountain is in...
Space Mountain's Epcot, right?
Epcot, yes.
Yeah, and it's like where a lot of sciencey stuff is, but it's also where all the countries are. They have England, France, Italy, Germany...
China.
China. Do they have China and Japan? I don't remember.
Yeah, they have them. Yeah, they're right next to each other.
Yeah. They were just like kind of close together on top of each other.
Morocco.
Just different countries you could visit. Like in England, we went to a Twinings tea company and got like some rose and blueberry tea.
We're still drinking that stuff. That lasted a long time. We literally
have one rose left, and I'm going to go online and see if I can find Rose Garden tea because that is my favorite.
That shit was good.
If you haven't tried rose tea and you like the sweet flavor of rose, definitely go for it. It's very light.
If we ever get to a point as a Jug O Sip podcast where we can make our own rose tea, we will do so.
Yeah, we're down to do that.
We love it.
We had a generally good day at the beginning. Like that's actually where I got my Minnie Mouse ears. We were having a generally good morning. Mm-hmm. I rode Space Mountain a couple of times, whatever. And so we're walking around, and my family decides to have Thanksgiving dinner in Germany. And bless them, they did the best they could. And my family does a really good job making sure everybody feels included and happy.
Yeah.
This was just a bad day combined with that meal was just atrocious. But before we get to that, we're walking around the countries.
And we're hitting it. We're traveling because it's a ring when you go there.
It's a circle. You kind of loop.
It's a giant circle around a huge lake, and you have to loop the circle.
It's like traveling around the world. You have to go in
right. That's the point. It make you go around a literal circle. So we're hitting all the countries, and it gets to a point where it's late, and we have to find Germany. So we're walking, and then we walk through this area that's just called...
What were you generally good? Because you were generally good all day up until the evening. So the day itself was fine. It wasn't until nightfall that shit started going...
When I started to notice...
It was post-Japan, because we went to Japan... Yeah. My brother and Heidi had like a little incident in Morocco, but we were apart from that.
Oh, and that's another thing, really quick. In every single location, they hired people that were from those countries. So in Japan, they had Japanese people. In France, they had French speakers. They had, German people in Germany.
Japanese people in Japan.
In Germany is a whole other thing. They had German people in Germany for the most part. But that has some cultural implications that we will get into.
Because of the implication.
Yes, because of the implication. So,
go ahead. So after Japan, because we get through Japan, Charles and I are having a great time. I'm showing him, because he loves Japanese culture, so I knew he'd be really into it. I'm showing him the koi pond, and he's taking photos, which is odd for him, with statues. I was showing him how you can like mine your own pearls, which I did in high school. So we were having a great time. So around dinner time, we decide to go ride one more ride. Remember, the ride happened before Germany. The Elsa ride.
Yes.
So there was this ride
in the Scandinavia area,
and the Nordic area.
Norway.
Like, Norway.
Yeah,
I was like,
Norway.
I'm like, what's Nordic? I am like so stupid today. I'm so tired. And in Norway, there was a ride there years ago called I think it was Odin something or whatever, and it was basically it was just a Norse boat that, Viking boat that you went on, and they bring you up like it's a water ride. It's kind of rocky, and then they bring you up to this thing where it looks like you're going to go over this waterfall. Then you go backwards and go down a smaller thing. And I don't remember ever getting wet on it, but again, the ride had changed and they made it into a frozen ride. And the part where you go backwards, now Elsa is standing there singing and there's no waterfall.
And it's terrifying.
Okay.
It's terrifying.
Okay, let me explain. Charles, let me explain this. It's not terrifying.
It is
terrifying. To Charles it is, because Charles hates water.
Well, I don't like cold water.
Well, I get very freaked out. And he also doesn't know how to swim.
I get very freaked out if cold water is like splashing on my body. I don't know why. I'm not really sure why this is, but it's a very guttural response. I feel like I'm drowning.
Very primal. It's very primal. You get very upset.
It feels like I'm drowning. I legitimately don't know why this is.
And I feel bad. I didn't mean to betray his trust, but I asked him to get on the ride with me because he doesn't ride a lot of rides. And I was like, you shouldn't get wet on this ride. I don't remember ever getting wet on it. And if you do, it's probably not going to be much. You know, I was honest with you as best I could be from what I remembered.
But the thing is, the water wasn't the part that was terrifying. It was the frozen characters.
Oh, you made it. You couldn't explain it that night, though.
I couldn't explain it that night because I was going through too much.
So you didn't like those animatronic characters?
Those animatronic characters were absolutely terrifying. Because they didn't look like, first of all,
What about the ones on the other rides that you saw, though? They weren't as terrifying to you?
No, because basically what they did is they took animatronic shapes and they projected faces onto the head shapes of these characters.
Oh, is that what they did?
Yeah, you can tell.
I didn't even notice because I was just like enjoying the ride itself.
It's just that the projections were so realistic that it made what was 2D look 3D at every possible angle.
I wasn't paying that much attention to the characters, to be honest. I was more there for the ride itself because I liked that boat ride.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ride one more thing before we went to dinner. So at the end of the ride, a little bit of water, just a tiny bit, splashes on Charles' bare arm, but it was cold water. And he was already on edge.
And we'll explain why I was on edge prior to that ride in a second.
But yeah, so that set him off edge. So tell him what triggered you into the mood you were in before we got on that ride. Because you were in a great mood. We were walking into Norway and we passed this area called the Trade Post.
Outpost.
I'm sorry. I keep saying Trade Post. Outpost.
So we're walking, again, like Lindsay said, we're walking and we passed this area called the Outpost. And it looked like just a bathroom and a snack area. And it was sounding like, it kind of reminded me of 125th Street in 90s Harlem.
But it was such a small section.
It was a very small section.
There was just one booth with, where Japan had a couple of stores.
It had a couple of stores and buildings.
One big store and a couple of buildings and some statues. And the other countries had
Actually, every single country had stores and buildings.
And I think Mexico had a restaurant that was shaped like a Mayan temple.
They were their own towns pretty much.
But the outpost had just one little booth selling African style elephants and things like that.
It was just like a shack, and it was next to a snack bar, and that's what it was. And I didn't pay any
post or whatever.
I didn't pay any attention to it initially because it was so small and it wasn't very well lit. It was like they were trying to hide it from people.
And I didn't think anything of it.
I didn't think anything of it when I initially saw it. But the first thing I thought was, wow, okay, we must be going into I thought it was the start of an Africa-like section, and we just walked through it instead. We walked past it as opposed to going into it.
Yeah, because when we were coming back, I was like, I didn't see that there was an area of Africa, and I don't remember that. We need to walk through and see if we can find it.
Again, the reason I recognize it is because I grew up in Harlem, and in Harlem on 125th Street, you can buy authentic African artifacts and statues and and walking sticks and everything, very high end stuff.
Rugs,
You could
stuff.
buy from there. So I was so familiar with that merchandise because I grew up around it. It was blocks away from my house my whole life.
That's why I didn't buy anything from there.
So yeah, well, that's another reason I didn't buy anything from there, because I was like, Disney about to sell me something I could get near my house for much cheaper.
Yeah.
Just because they got the real estate. Fuck out of here. Anyway, so we walked past it, right? And we're just like, did we pass by Germany? Like, we were getting confused because we didn't know if we passed it or not, because we were walking pretty fast. I think we actually skipped over China.
I think we have, because we were trying to get to Norway first, and we were like, I think it's over a little past Norway. We were just trying to figure out where the fuck we were because it was getting darker.
So
it wasn't very good lighting over there.
Yeah, so I look at the map and I'm like, okay, we went here, 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 and then I see right above where the Africa area was, it said outpost. And then then I took the totality of everything that I saw and how they dealt with every single culture before and after, and it hit me all at once how they dealt with Africa.
And they tell the people listening what an outpost is, so they understand
basically
the theory of what we felt.
Basically, an outpost is a point where you trade goods. Right. They named the Africa place. They named Africa.
The place based off Africa.
Basically the place where you go to trade goods, like a slave post. That's what they were called. That where you would buy slaves,
you would buy tea
on a slave
herbs
trip,
and then slaves. They were bought like common goods.
Yeah, they were bought at outposts, like when they were using the boats. But after that, it was just.
It was at one point during slavery they did that.
Yeah, in the early stages of it, in the triangle trade, when they still had the boats before they were doing the breeding.
There might be people out there who were like, "Well, outpost means something different to different places." No, this was supposed to be based off Africa. That was clearly why it was
that's
offensive.
The issue, because obviously outpost doesn't mean slave trade. Outpost means trade point.
Usually, or like different things.
Yeah, outpost just means a place where you buy goods, but it's the principle of the fact that they decided to name. They didn't name, because China was named China. Japan was named Japan. Morocco was Morocco. Germany was Germany. Mexico was Mexico. Norway, Britain, all of those places.
Was outpost.
Africa was called outpost.
So it
was the only place. It was the smallest place. It was the worst lit. They had the least amount of merchandise. They had one black person, 2 black people working there. Everybody else there was of a different race, which was fine. Generally that's fine, but when you consider how they handled everything else around it, that was very not fine. It was just the principle of how they chose to deal with Africa. It's like it's like whoever came up with Epcot, which I found out later was Walt Disney. Initially, it was supposed to be something totally different. It was supposed to be a utopian society that Walt Disney thought of, and ironically, it became a reflection of what that park saw the world as. According to that reflection, Africa is this trade
place.
It's like
for trading. That's it.
It's like they took all of the many cultures that are just in Africa, the continent by itself, and they just pushed it into, and they just said all of Africa is just a shack and some wooden sticks.
And Egypt is in Africa. People don't realize,
Egypt is a part of Africa. It is a part of Africa. If they wanted, they could have just did Egypt.
But, it's in Africa.
Yeah, that's where the world book starts to become the Middle East. But they could have just did Egypt. It would have still counted as Africa.
They could have done any part of Africa they wanted. They could have even done
Do you know how dope it would have been to do an ancient Egypt part of Epcot? That would have been the shit.
Yeah, or even if they did any other part of Africa, they could have included.
They could have did Kush, which is very similar to Egypt, but they were not
had African
the same
food, like a restaurant.
Yeah, African food is amazing.
Anyway, so
they could have done Uganda, Ghana, Ethiopia, any of the many.
Thank God this happened at the end of the night, because he and I were so fucking done by that point.
Yeah,
but we had checked out for slightly different reasons.
I was so angry.
We were both furious
because I bought that damn lightsaber, and then I saw that, and I was like, I felt cheated.
Well, anyway,
I felt like they took something from me by showing me something else that I liked, while just disrespecting my humanity on the back end
and any culture that you share in your family.
Right.
So anyway, we're pissed about that. I'm devastated for 2 reasons. One, I'm furious, but I'm also devastated for him and how hurt he felt. And I was mostly putting my focus on him that night. I admittedly did not do well that night, and that was horrible because, one, we rode the ride. Charlie had that panic attack, and by that point, it just pushed me over the edge. So after the ride, we go to Germany. We find our tables. We find out that this food is buffet style and $50 a plate. And if anybody has ever eaten German food, y'all, I'm Southern. I do not do white people food without seasoning. I don't know. I mean, some of it was good.
Some of it was good.
But it was not $50 a plate good.
No.
For maybe some good Mexican food, like that had a huge buffet, $50 a plate might be worth it. Italian food, maybe.
Right.
Something with like a big variety of more than just meat, potatoes, and Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah.
Like, no offense to German culture, I enjoy the culture for the most part, but like, I'm not into the food, and I was already not really on board with that. So we were a little pissy about that.
Meanwhile, I'm still reeling from the racial disrespect of the entire park. And as I'm sitting there, I notice, wait a minute, Germany, why is there a black girl
here in Germany
wearing lederhosen or whatever they were wearing? And then all at once, I remembered the Dutch started the slave trade.
Yeah, that's right.
And they would dress up little black girls and have them learn German as a way, like
make
they
them
were
little Frauleins.
Yeah, like they were little toys,
yeah,
or something. Like they were entertainment. In fact, in
like
the movie,
dolls.
In the movie Django Unchained, they hint on that, which is why Hildy, her name was
Hildy or Hildegard.
Her name was Brunhilde because one of her slave owners was a German woman who wanted to speak German with someone, so she taught Hildy how to speak German.
So basically, the black people in Germany are mostly there because of their descendants.
Well, that's
like, they're the descendants of slaves, basically, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, they all were, and when they went in there, the role that black people played in Germany at the time was primarily of servitude.
Well, yeah.
So I looked around and I was like this, and I realized obviously they didn't hire this, or at least I doubt they hired this one black girl to capture the authenticity of slave
the wrong
trade.
Time to see it.
But it was a bad time. It was just very bad timing for when I saw her because she was the only one in there.
Charles and I almost demanded to leave before we even ate because we were like, at that point we wanted to go get like Wendy's or something and go back to the hotel and check the fuck out for the rest of the night. We just not the hotel, but the house, but like the Airbnb.
Yeah.
And we stuck it out. It got a little bit better after dinner. But it still wasn't great. So that day felt like, even though we had a good beginning start of it, it was kind of a bust. But the third day, now keep in mind, we were there for
we were there for 4 days.
Like 4 or 5 days.
Well, the whole vacation was 5 days.
But there was one day where I don't think everybody went to the park and stuff. No. We skipped Animal Kingdom, so we're only going to talk about the 3 parks.
Yeah, we didn't do Animal Kingdom.
I decided to do Magic Kingdom 2 days in a row because I like the rides there. And I mean, Animal Kingdom's great, but I just wasn't feeling it at that point.
But on the third day, we went to...
Third and fourth day, we went to Magic Kingdom.
Magic Kingdom.
Which is a great park. That's where Great Thunder Mountain is. It's one of my favorite rides.
And by the time Magic Kingdom happened, I was still... he was still sore from yesterday emotionally. Very aggravated by the concept because I went into Disney World having I'll just say this. When you're raised as a black kid, if you saw Disney World on TV, if you saw the commercials, and if you're a black person, you know what I'm talking about. If you saw those Disney World commercials and you went, "Can I go?" Usually if you had a black parent, they would go, "That's not for you." What they meant is that culturally, that place is not going to appeal to black kids. You're going to go there and you're going to feel left out. You're going to go there and feel culturally alienated. And that's exactly how I felt.
And I mean, I know a lot of people who are black that enjoy Disney, but I'm sure at some point, somewhere, whether it be a Disney movie or a Disney park, they probably felt alienated at some point.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the other races, but I can definitely imagine that for them. And
I can't speak for the other races.
So Magic Kingdom's great. I mean, I got to go ride the teacups and all those little ones that I enjoyed as a kid, like the Great Thunder Mountain, Haunted Mansion. And then my dad and brother are like, "You guys want to go on the Carousel of Progress?" And I'm like, "The fuck is that? I like carousels. What is that?"
Right.
And apparently it was like something that Walt Disney made for the World Fair in, I think, 1969. And it's the concept itself is amazing. It's a theater, but it's in a carousel perspective. So you sit in these seats and it rotates you around the stage. Yeah, it rotates you around a 4-point stage. Like it's a circle that's cut into quarters. And it shows you, different, the progress from like a certain, I forgot what era it was. It was like 1950s or some shit on. Well, I'll look it up here. Maybe even sooner. I think it might have been like the 18-somethings. But it takes you throughout like the evolution of technology, life as humans. But if you're a woman or a person of color or queer, it's going to fucking hurt your feelings.
Yeah, I literally said that when I got on the carousel. We got on the
carousel of progress. We sit down in our seats.
Yeah, I learned that it was established in 1964.
64. That's
the second I heard that, I was like 1964. And then they were I'm about to get my feelings hurt.
No, actually, what they said was this was done in 1964 at the World Fair, and it showed what Walt Disney's ideal world would look like. And Charles goes, I'm about to get my feelings hurt. And I go, don't worry, baby. Me too.
Yeah. Because you know what was for those people who don't know about the civil rights movement, that was happening in 1964.
So let's just say the Carousel of Progress is not very friendly to people of color, LGBT people, or women.
I call it the white man ride. I mean, the white man experience ride.
The straight white man. Because let me explain, first of all, in the first scene we see, which is the Act 1 is the 1900s, the early 1900s. Yo, this man sexually exploits his daughter in the first act.
It centers around a white dude who's a father. It is like their
whole family.
His name is John. He's in a wooden rocking chair inside of his home. Matter of fact, I'm reading this off of Wikipedia. On his right is his dog, Rover. We're going to talk about Rover.
I'm pretty sure Rover's immortal.
Rover is happily lying on the floor. John tells the guests that it's right around the turn of the century and that it's Valentine's Day. He claims that things cannot get any better. They're at the time, in all that, blah, blah, blah.
All that bullshit. Happy, like, this is the greatest country in the world bullshit.
Yeah.
That nobody but straight white men like.
Then they start talking about Thomas Edison, which, if you know black history...
Or no history in general, Thomas Edison ain't shit.
You realize how, if you know who Lewis Latimer is, you can understand why hearing a bunch of white people talk about how great Thomas Edison is.
Or Nikola Tesla. If you know any of those people.
If you know any of those people, you realize how aggravating that person's
and you already know you're working with that, like, make America great again kind of personality already.
Yeah.
And, okay, so can we talk about, first of all, I'm really disturbed by this. We need to talk about how he sexually exploits his daughter in the first act.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So his daughter's Sarah, right? Oh, no, his wife, Sarah. What's his daughter's name?
Let's see, hold up. So the wife's name... Okay, let's see. The wife's name is Sarah. Wait, James is watching. Okay, James is the son.
Which he was watching a thing called the ancient Egyptian dancing the hoochie coochie, which is just
porn.
race.
That's porn.
It's porn and it's racist.
He was watching 1900s porn. Let's see. So John and James finishing. John. His grandma. Damn, where's the daughter? I don't remember.
They don't talk about him exploiting his daughter?
I just can't. I'm scanning through it. I can't see it exactly. But explain the daughter. I'll look up her name.
Okay. So in the first fucking act, his daughter is like, and they turn on lights in the different room and you can see what they're doing. The daughter's in her room in like a corset in front of the mirror, getting dressed, and she's like, "Father, I'm not decent." He's like, "Don't worry, honey. These are Daddy's friends." And I'm like, "What?" I think I audibly in the theater just go, "What?" Did I?
Yeah, you did.
I went, what?
Because it was a half-naked animatronic human shape.
Teenage girl. She was like, what, 14?
She was 14.
He pointed out like she was like her early teens, mid-teens. And I'm like...
Patricia's the daughter's name.
Patricia. He's like, don't worry, Patricia. These are, getting ready for a Valentine's Day dance on the other side of town. And
John explains that she will be taking one of the new horseless trolleys.
Why he tells everyone it's okay to see her in her underwear.
Yeah, before telling her that she better be home by 9 o'clock. Better be home by 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I like how he's like, don't you have sex, but let everyone see you in your panties.
He then tells the guests that he's going to take one of the said trolleys downtown to have a root beer, which he explains is just sarsaparilla with a new name. Wow. After he's finished, he begins singing "There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow." Okay, let's talk about that goddamn song.
First of all, I can still hear it in my head, and I hate it. I'm so mad.
They sing that song every time the carousel turns. From the start, you hear it 4 times.
At least. I felt, first of all, that thing felt longer than 4 acts.
Here's the lyrics of the song. There's a great big beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. There's a great big beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow's just a dream away. Man has a dream, and it's not Martin Luther King. Man has a dream.
Not that one.
And that's the start. He follows his dream with his mind in heart. And when it becomes a reality, it's a dream come true for you and me. So there's a great big beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. There's a great big beautiful tomorrow, just a dream away.
And when he says for you and me, he means white people.
Yeah.
And okay, so we should also talk about how he abuses his wife and all the other shit.
Yeah, let's talk about Sarah.
Not physically,
Let's
but
talk about
he emotionally abuses Sarah.
So literally, this man in all 4 acts. We're not jumping ahead here. In all 4 acts, he is literally doing nothing but sitting in a chair. If you track the literal progress of John himself,
he's sitting in a chair on a couch. He's always sitting.
Basically, he's sitting, and he went from the living room to the kitchen. That is the only progress that he made.
Yeah, the only progress John personally made
is he just moved to the next room.
Meanwhile, his son watches porn basically the whole time.
Constantly watching porn.
His daughter's always doing something. She's always going out. Or she's living her life.
The daughter and the wife are
doing
focused.
the most.
Like, the wife is his career. The wife is always cleaning and fixing the house.
The daughter's dating and just going out and living her life.
And the son's just in the house beating off, like not doing nothing.
For 4 acts. His fucking father's sitting on his couch talking about how America and the future is so great while he drinks sarsaparilla and exploits his daughter and wife. There's one scene literally where he's sitting his stupid fucking white man ass on a fucking sofa or a chair. I forget which. And I forgot what act it is because I blocked most of this out. It feels like a big brownout. Like, I remember vague bits and pieces and I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And she's wallpapering a wall because, back when people thought wallpaper was important. Yeah. And he's sitting on his fucking ass making fun of her and making jokes about her hanging the wallpaper.
Right, exactly.
I have never wanted to kick an animatronic in the dick harder since they revealed the Donald Trump one at fucking Disney, which I don't go into the Hall of Presidents. My mom forced me to do that every time we went to Disney, and she's dead now, and she can't make me do it.
Yeah, we didn't mess with the Hall of Presidents. So.
Especially, because first of all, it's not the Hall of Presidents anymore. It's the Hall of Presidents and one orange guy. Yeah.
It's a Hall of Presidents.
And he doesn't deserve to stand next to Barack Obama.
Yeah, for real. Anyway, so
we protested.
So that was Act 1. Act 2 is in 1920.
That's just Act 1, y'all.
Yeah, that was Act 1 of the Carousel of Progress.
Wait, where was the wallpaper one?
That was Act 1.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, in the first act, the mom's doing laundry and her wash day marvel, which I think is a washing machine.
Yeah. Act 2, John is once again sitting in his kitchen, this time a smaller kitchen chair.
So he's just in the kitchen the whole fucking time.
Yeah, on Independence Day in the roaring 20s, wires and new electronic machines are all over the room. When John stops singing, he tells the guests that things have changed a lot in the last 20 years. He proceeds to tell guests the new accomplishments of
other people he didn't do.
He goes, Charles Lindbergh, who's about to fly over the Atlantic Ocean by himself, sports stadiums that are being built all over the
Keep in mind,
US.
when he talked about Lindbergh flying over the Atlantic, he's like, he'll never make it. I'm like, oh, you can't even make it out of your chair, John. Fuck you.
Yeah, like, who? Yeah, for real.
He's wanting to talk. He doesn't have any goals.
Advertisements out, the jazz singer.
The jazz singer in which Al Jolson will talk even sing.
Yeah, he's talking about
talkies.
Yeah, he's talking about talkies. Electric starters are now cars, eliminating the need to crank them.
So like car engines and batteries and things are now different.
And people can travel by train from New York to California in 3 days.
So I mean,
What,
again,
did he just learn about the Transcontinental Railroad? Because that was there before the 1920s.
All I'm saying is I get the progresses he was talking about on some level, but it's coming from the perspective of a privileged white fucking dude who doesn't move from his chair for 4 acts while his wife does laundry and hangs wallpaper and raises a family. Yeah. Even the grandma who sleeps most of the time does more than fucking John does. Yeah. But anyway, so let's go to the 1940s, yeah. Act 3.
So the 1940s, it is now Halloween during the fabulous 40s. Yeah, all right, fabulous. And John is wearing a sweater while sitting at a circular booth-style kitchen table. He tells guests that everything is better than ever in the Oh, God.
You and I weren't guests. We were there. He didn't know there was a black person in the audience.
And shows off the new kitchen technologies, including a refrigerator that holds more food and ice cubes and... refrigerator. Okay, let's look up who invented the refrigerator, because this dude, he do all his lip service to Thomas Edison. He spends 2 acts talking about Thomas Edison. And he mentions the refrigerator. Refrigerator.
Who invented that? I don't even know.
Refrigerator.
Inventor. The ice box.
Inventor.
Excuse me.
Okay. What about the refrigerator?
Because there's different faces of the fridge. So let's see.
Because there were many incarnations of different kitchen appliances, and a lot of kitchen appliances were actually invented by black people.
It says this Chinese cut and stored ice. The Chinese created the concept of the ice box, which gave you the history of the fridge at first.
Yeah, the refrigerator. It wasn't just it wasn't just storing your food in a bag and in fridge. Like, there was some steps to this.
No, they like dug holes with ice and basements and things like that. There's different levels in which the ice bug, they created ditches with cold water in them. There's different things they did to keep food cold.
Albert T. Marshall created the original...
first mechanical refrigerator. That was in 1899?
Yeah, I just want to look a picture.
So wait, why the fuck are they talking about in the 1940s when this has existed since like the 1800s?
Because
maybe it was more common in households at that point.
I can't find a picture of this person. Wow. Anyway, but the point that I'm trying to make is that there's a lot of inaccuracies with this. It's a very selective expression of history. Like,
example, when they go to the 21st century, which is the fourth act, it's a hot ass mess. It looks like a fusion of now in the 80s and like what people thought the 90s and 80s were going to look like.
Yeah.
Like there was virtual reality, but the TVs looked like 80s TVs and people were wearing 80s sweaters. And,
right.
And the 80s weren't even 21st century. That was the 20th.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
It was like they were trying to predict what now would look like, but it just looked like what the 80s looked like.
Yeah, it was
because that was actually technically the future because they did this in 1964. So he predicted the 80s, but he did not predict the 21st century.
But the funny thing is that they didn't update it. All they did was throw a flat screen in there where the tube television used to be, and everything else. They're trying
not to touch it. They're just trying to clean it up because they want to keep Walt Disney's vision. But I think that stage concept that Walt invented is good. Well, did he invent that?
I don't know. Let me see.
Well, if he did invent it, it's cool. But like what I'm saying is they should use that stage for a different thing. They need to actually progress the carousel of progress and make it grow a little bit. I know they don't want to fuck with Walt's vision, but they need to fuck with Walt's vision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that shit ain't... we left laughing. We were losing it.
It's an entire ride dedicated to the vision of a racist anti-Semite's expression of what the whole world would be. There wasn't a black person in sight. Nobody that wasn't white. The white man in the carousel, again, the only progress he made was from the kitchen to the living room. Actually, yeah, it was all the same kitchen. The kitchen moved slightly and he moved slightly with the kitchen. His wife did all the work. The daughter was being sexually repressed. The son was flinging his fluids
and exploited at the same time.
Exploited. The son was flinging his fluids all over the room and the world.
Can we talk about the immortal Rover?
The immortal Rover?
The dog.
Oh, yeah.
So in every one of these acts, starting from the turn of the century of the 1900s up to the 21st century, they have the same dog, Rover, and it is called Rover. That dog is either immortal or a clone.
I was under the impression that because he ages, like in Act 3, he's old, and in Act 4, he's young again.
First of all, by Act 3, that was the 1940s, that dog did not live 40 years.
No.
And you can't fucking tell me he did.
That dog was exceptionally dead by the 1940s. If he was an adult in the
lifespan is like anywhere between 12 to 20 years, depending on the dog.
Rover was an adult dog in the 1900s, according to the Carousel of Progress.
Yeah, so like, what kind of progress is happening? Did you figure out a way to clone your dog? Like, what the fuck happened?
Well, that's what I initially thought when they got to the 21st century. It was the future, so I thought, okay,
and the dog was young again.
Yeah, maybe Walt Disney thought that there was some kind of human replicating or cloning technology they did. I don't know if he was able to think that far ahead.
The whole thing was bullshit.
I was doing more work than the carousel was. And
we were just like, the fuck?
And then Lindsay told me something that happens with some white families, that if they get a dog and the dog passes away, some white people will get another dog. In fact,
name it the same thing.
I never heard this before, so I can't honestly say that this is a white people's thing.
My aunt's a great example. So my mom's sister had several Daisy Mays. And then they also had, white people aren't terribly creative with pet names for some reason, usually, at least that generation. And then they had a black Shih Tzu named Sadie who died, unfortunately, she got sick. And they got another black Shih Tzu in which they named her Sadie too. Like little black Mercedes, just like the first one. And I'm over here like, all that would do is remind me of my dead dog.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, I think every creature should have its own individual name. I don't even really think people should name their kids after them. Like, middle names I can forgive, but like, you shouldn't name your kid after you, in my opinion. So right. Like, everybody deserves their own individuality, but that does happen, especially in an older generation of white people. Like, not so much now. Our generation of millennials and Gen Xers and stuff have really creative names for their pets. But like my parents' generation, the Boomers, and like my grandparents, my grandparents cared so little about pet names. They would just like name their pets random shit. Like, I had a cat named Elmo when I was 9.
Yeah.
8 or 9 because I was obsessed with Elmo.
Yeah.
And my grandma had to take him to the vet, and he was one of those gray-blue cats. She told the vet his name was Blue, which was not even fucking close to the cat's name. We had a dog named Freckles, and my grandmother told the vet its name was Pimples.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she just changed our pet's names just because she fucking could, I guess. And so...
Wow.
Which reminds me of that whole other vet name story situation I told you about with my brother's ex-girlfriend, but that's a completely different episode.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So Carousel of Progress happened. They did Space Mountain. At this point, this is an interesting little side story.
Yeah. We had a pretty decent day that day. It made up for the shitty day we had before.
When Lindsay, Michael, and Heidi went to do Space Mountain, because the thing is, Heidi wasn't really able to do a lot of rides because she was watching Caleb.
Well, she could because of you. If you hadn't been there, she wouldn't have been able to.
Well, that was around the time where it started, because I was just like, listen, this is near your last day. Go do a thing. Just do some adult stuff. That was their last day. Go hang out. I'll watch Caleb. I'll just sit here and talk to him.
Yeah, because Charlie doesn't like to ride on stuff, and the rest of us do. So he just decided to be the daily babysitter for all of us.
Yeah, like Caleb couldn't ride, and I didn't want to ride.
Yeah, and
so I just
the stuff
to
he
him.
could ride, I would sometimes take him while Heidi and Michael got to go do their own thing.
So I sat down, and I was just talking to the. How old was Caleb at the time?
Well, he just turned 4. He's going to be 5 this year.
So he was
5 in October.
He was 4 on the trip.
He had just turned 4 the month before.
He just turned 4. Okay, so I'm sitting here talking to this 4-year-old.
He's cool as fuck too. He's really smart.
I legitimately didn't know that I was good with kids until Caleb gave me the chance to figure that out, and I was just. We were literally just talking, and so
tell him how the conversation started. So talk
basically,
about that.
So we roll over to the side, and because he's in the stroller, I'm sitting here. I'm sitting just outside the ride. We're just waiting.
You're sitting in the shade.
I'm sitting in the shade, and I'm trying to keep him in the shade too. Like I'm trying to keep the sun out of his eyes, and I'm like, so you got your new toy. He had this like bubble, this bubble thing.
It was like a bubble wand thing that was shaped like Mickey Mouse's head and like with the Epcot ball, and you push the button and like it was like an automatic bubble machine, and we were having the best time with it that whole day.
Right, and he was like, I want to use my bubble machine, but it's not working. I was like, I think there's something wrong with it. We might have to fix it later.
It was out of fluid. It turned out he needed more liquid.
Yeah, and he was like, okay, so I put it away, and I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. How you feel about ice cream?
He asked him if he wanted some ice cream.
Yeah, like, do you want some ice cream? And then we just started talking about the different ice cream that he saw.
Well, tell him how that whole started, because like what he asked about the ice cream was different. He asked about the different shapes and how they affected it.
Yeah, he was like, do the different shapes affect the different tastes? And I said, not all the time.
Texture sometimes.
But textures sometimes do. Like we were talking about shapes and colors and textures and ice cream. And then we were talking about how, because he had noticed that there were 2 different ice cream stands at Disney World that he kept spotting.
Booths and stuff.
And he preferred one over the other because it had more flavors and variety. Makes sense. He referred to the other one as the fake one. And I was like, yeah, sometimes there's real ice cream stands and sometimes there's fake ones. You got to avoid the fake ones. And he started laughing. And I was like, sometimes people are like that too. And then he started laughing. But it kind of went on like that. And y'all were only gone for like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes.
It was longer. I mean, we were in line for a bit. Even if we had the fast pass, we were only there. We were probably gone for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, I was talking to him the whole time, just keeping him occupied.
He's easy to entertain and have fun with. He's generally really good.
Right, but it was that moment where it was just like, if Caleb wasn't here, this would not be fun.
But he's also rowdier with me. You're calmer.
Yeah. It just wouldn't be. It wouldn't have been fun if he wasn't around.
Like I took him at Magic Kingdom. I took him on the Haunted Mansion, which I remember when I was a kid. The Haunted Mansion scared the piss out of me. But I was, believe it or not, like people think I'm all a badass, but I'm actually a very sensitive person. And when I was a kid, I was easily frightened. Like you could just say my name suddenly and I would just scream. Like I just get startled easily. So the Haunted Mansion was very frightening to me when I was a little kid. Not so much the Tower of Terror, because that came out when I was like 9, so I was okay then.
Yeah.
So the haunted house, I take Caleb in, and it's immediately spooky right away. The Haunted Mansion is like the moment you walk in, it's a whole atmospheric thing. It's so cool too, because there's like little details, names change, statues move and open their eyes, portraits change. It's really cool. And I took him in, and I took him into the initial room, and I picked him up, and I looked him in the eye, and I said, "Listen, I just want you to know before we go in, just remember this is pretend, and if you get scared, we can leave anytime." Or, we can ride it out. But I just want you to know you don't have anything to be afraid of. I'm right here. And he's like, whatever. And I was like, okay. And he giggled the whole time. We had the best time. Like, he and I laughed. Like, he's a lot rowdier with me. Like, we run around. I carry him. we're loud together. We rode Pirates of the Caribbean. We rode Great Thunder Mountain. All the rides that like I rode as a kid, I took him on, and we just like he was losing at the Pirates. He was laughing his ass off at the Pirates on Pirates of the Caribbean, but we had the best time with him.
Yeah, and then the next day, which was the last day we were in the park itself.
And we went to Magic Kingdom again. We just stayed for less time.
Yeah, we stayed for less time, but...
We left around like 6 or 7.
Heidi, Michael, and Caleb left back to West Virginia the day before.
And I remember we got ice cream. We were sitting there and I was getting ready to go in the Haunted Mansion. We were a little early. And like, honestly, if you're not riding rides, other than going into shops, there's not a whole lot to do there itself.
Right.
So we're sitting there, and I was like, I'm having a fun and everything, but I really miss that kid.
Yeah.
Like, being around the kids makes it so much more fun. And, like, at that point, like, I was just ready to go back to the house and just, like I said, float in the hot tub and stuff. Like, I was definitely checked out by the end of it. I had a good time, but definitely, now if Charlie and I went back as adults, just by ourselves and with, like, maybe a friend or whatever, or a couple friends, we'd probably only go to the park for 3 days and do other stuff in Orlando.
Yeah, because without...
I would actually rather do 3 days at Disney and probably 3 days at Universal.
Yeah, just...
I feel like Universal's more for adults and teens.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's for everybody, but, there's more for, like, all of us to do there.
Just the adult sensibilities alone, it just doesn't make that park appealing.
And, they took out this area I think it was called Pleasure Island. And it used to be, like, where all the nightclubs and shit were at Disney. I think there's still City Walk in Orlando, but for Disney, they had, like, Pleasure Island, I believe it was called, and they had, like based off the Pinocchio Pleasure Island, but they had, like, clubs and all sorts of stuff, and I remember being a teenager and seeing that and being like, I can't wait to come back as an adult, and drink and go to clubs and stuff, and I brought clothes to go clubbing, just in case my sister-in-law and I wanted to kick it up over there or something, but... they took it out and replaced it with, like, this family-friendly area, and I'm just like, I'm an adult now, and all I wanted to do was these adult things as a teenager, and they sucked all the fun out of those things for me.
Right, yeah. But, I mean, after that, we just kind of chilled out and went home.
Yeah, we had a really great trip. Like I said, I made, like, pot brownies, and I just spent most of the time just, like, stoned and having a good time. And
we hung out with Lindsay's family. We had some great bonding moments. Yeah, it was, I mean, look, and all in all, I enjoyed being around Lindsay and her family more than I enjoyed being in Disney World. If we didn't even go to Disney World and I just chilled out with them for a couple of days, I would have been just as happy.
Well, yeah, my family's a lot of fun. Like, we had a really good time. I loved going to Disney. I definitely realized I really enjoy it far more with kids. I don't know. I'm getting to a more maternal place in my life, and I'm kind of getting to that point where I want to settle down and have a family. Like, I'm the kind of person I want a career and a family.
Right.
And for me, having... I think I might not go back to Disney unless it's with, like, our friend Katie or someone like that. Like, if we go with friends, it might be different. But I don't think I'll go back until we have a kid and that kid turns roughly 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Like, because 3 or 4 is a perfect age to bring them because they still sort of remember it. They don't get tired as easily. You can still bring a stroller. And honestly, I thought Disney was... I used to call Disney stroller hell as a teenager because I was a very different person. I was very angry. I hated everyone. I hated kids. I was just a very angry person. And I used to call it stroller hell because I remember there being a ton of strollers. But honestly, I've steered that stroller through Disney, and I managed to do it without being disrespectful of people's spaces. And I managed to get through it very swiftly, and finding parking spaces for it was a breeze. Like, honestly, I don't think I want to go back until we have a toddler unless we go with friends.
Right, yeah.
Like, for us, I don't think the 2 of us should go in until we have our toddler.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean,
it's more fun that way.
If you... about that type of shit, then you go. But
everybody enjoys it for different reasons. That's just our perspective of it, like, for sure. Like, we definitely have a different perspective than probably most people. Yeah.
I guess that's the whole story now.
Yeah, that's it. That's the story time of Charlie's first trip to Disney World and our Disney World trip over Thanksgiving vacation.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so final remarks.
Not anything really, just like if you guys go to Disney World, have fun. But remember to pay attention to culturally insensitive things, even if, just be aware of it. Just acknowledge it. Understand that this came from the mind of a man from a different time and a different perspective.
Well, actually, he had a bad perspective given the time.
No, I was going to say he ultimately he had a very good vision. His park was lovely, but he was coming from an anti-Semitic and racist place. Right. People can say what they want about Walt Disney, but he he had a whole cartoon about Donald Duck playing a Nazi. Mm-hmm. Like,
and the numerous cartoons.
This is one of those things we talk about in like cancel culture. The man himself was a monster, but his park is lovely. He created a whole franchise of certain lovely things, but you have to understand there's times you notice there's a lot of culturally insensitive shit. And all I could say is for Disney, for people to want to continue supporting the company, I hope they start fixing that shit gradually. It looks like on some levels they have.
Yeah.
I hope they keep working to be more LGBT friendly, racially friendly, more broad. Disney it's not for white people. It's not for a certain class or race of people. It's for everybody. It's for families, and it should be for everybody and families.
Well, it is now. Back in when Disney Park was originally made, we're not just talking about a different kind of man. We're talking about a very different kind of a country, and culturally.
And he was even racist for his time, as we mentioned. Like I said, I'm not defending Walt Disney in the least. He was a piece of shit as far as his perspectives.
Culturally, and I guess you could consider this my final remarks.
Yeah, his social perspectives.
Back when if you ever were a black person, you experienced one of your parents telling you that that's not for you. The reason why they said that is because there was a time, and I don't know. I mean,
it was the intentions behind it.
It was the intentions behind Disney World was during a cultural time where black people felt much less safe, even now than they do now, to go anywhere, especially to places like that. So, if you're a black person and you go in there, there's some stuff you can enjoy legitimately.
For the most part, I think for the most part, everybody can enjoy it. But you have to notice, like, there are certain parts, like the outposts and things.
There's stuff you can enjoy, but there's some very subtly racial things that you're going to notice that's probably going to make you feel ashamed to be there or upset that they got your money.
Just avoid the Carousel of Progress.
Don't do the Carousel of Progress. I would avoid Epcot completely.
I personally wouldn't. I mean, like I started saying, I like Epcot for the most part. I do not like that part of it. Like, some of the countries were cool. Generally, it's a pretty interesting experience, but it's not my favorite park.
Well, that's the thing. The only reason that this was a problem for me is because Epcot as a whole, the way the whole situation was handled versus just that one part of it. That's the only reason.
Well, remember,
the
Carousel of
Outpost
Progress was at Magic Kingdom.
I know. I'm just talking about Epcot.
I'm just making sure you knew that those.
Yeah.
We remembered that. But
yeah.
I mean, like I said, Disney has great parts, but it has really fucked up parts too.
It's just like the movies and everything associated with Disney. It's like it's gonna
little things.
It's gonna leave you out if you're not the right color.
And
you're gonna feel left out.
The worst part about things like the Outpost is if you were raised mostly around white people, that wouldn't even occur to you as something that's wrong until someone of the black culture or from have African descendants would point it out to you.
Right.
And I felt bad for never noticing that. I was like, I don't even remember the African part, but like I said, I hadn't been there in years, so I didn't even think about it.
And at the same time, we don't have to do anything crazy to Epcot.
We don't have to cancel Disney altogether. I'm just
do Ancient Egypt.
I think we should. I think we should encourage Disney as a company, not to shut down, not to say "fuck you, Disney," but we should say, "Listen, you guys have made a lot of progress over the years, but you still need to have a long way to go before you're sensitive to the LGBT community, the black community, to anybody of color,
to cultures in general,
outside of just your average white American." They need to go broader and make sure that they're covering everything to make sure everyone is respected. Hopefully over time it will get that way, but maybe that people can start a petition to change the Outpost, to make these small changes that could be better for the community.
And let's be real, at the end of the day, if they take out the money and the time to respect and make these cultures feel more inclusive, they're just going to make more money because these cultures are going to want to go there to feel appreciated.
And honestly, it wouldn't cost them a lot just to change the name of Outpost to Africa and then gradually add things. They could change it to Africa and gradually add a new restaurant or like a different thing there.
Well, they could even call it Pan Africa as a reference to the Pan Africanism.
Yeah, they can do that, so it could cover all the cultures of Africa.
Yeah, all the cultures that are on display from black people in general.
They can afford to be more sensitive. That's what I mean. Like I would feel better.
Yeah.
And want to support Disney more and maybe even go back to Disney World more and even go to Disneyland if they can, structurally change those little things. Like it may not seem like a lot to a lot of people, but the fact that it switched Charlie's whole mood and hurt him shows that what it can do to a person.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just respect other cultures. So we should push for Disney to do better.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
In a respectful way.
That being said, we'll see you in the next one.
Yep. Toodles.